A well-known multimillionaire, Kevin O'Leary, said something a little while back that seemed to get the whole internet talking. He said he can't stand watching somebody who makes 70 grand a year spend $28 on lunch. And here's the thing. I think Kevin O'Leary is right, and I also think there's a way for us to have our $28 lunches and still follow his advice, and I want to talk about it. This isn't a bicycling channel, but today we're out on the bike. What I talk about on this channel is how to model your financial future so you can make better decisions in the present. Now, that doesn't translate well into a nice video for you to watch because it usually means I'm at a desk showing you a spreadsheet. But I live in the Pacific Northwest. It's beautiful here, and I think we can talk about budgets while we look at beautiful things. So we're going to see some of the city, spin the pedals, and you get to come along for lunch. Or really more of a brunch, because I'm after a breakfast burrito today, and we're going to try and rack up a $28 tab. On the Diary of a CEO podcast, Kevin O'Leary's actual statement that went viral was, "I can't stand it when I see kids that are making 70 grand a year spending $28 for lunch. I mean, that's just stupid." And people took issue for countless reasons. One of many reasons is that lunch has just gotten pretty expensive. A pretty normal lunch can cost that much. We're not talking about a caviar lunch here, we're talking about a trip to a deli in New York. And I mean, you can easily do that kind of damage at Applebee's. And I know for so many people, $28 isn't really a decision, it's just not happening. They're already doing a lot to limit their spending, and that deserves acknowledgement. Here's what Kevin goes on to say. Think about that in the context of being put into an index and making 8 to 10% a year for the next 50 years. And yes, that's going to yield a ton of money. But if you go deeper into what he's saying, I think it's important. Nobody can tell you what to do with your money. Not me, not Kevin O'Leary. It's yours, and ultimately, the decision is yours. But I'll tell you where I think Kevin is right. Because he is. If you make 70K a year, if you make 40K a year, if you make 120K a year, if you buy a $28 lunch every single day, yeah, there's probably something better you can do with that money. Here's where I think we can agree with Kevin and still have our lunch. I think what can really get us into a bad place is when we judge every single purchase we make, whether it's a lunch or a latte, against how it would do in the market over the next 30 or 50 years. Because that'll just drive you batshit crazy. Every lunch, every snack, every purchase, you'd be like, well, I could do better with this money. I'm going to beat myself up about it because this should probably be in the market. That wears on you. So next I want to share with you what I do and why, because I think maybe it can help you out. When I was younger, coming out of college, I had a lot of debt, and I made a spreadsheet that helped me to get it all paid off. It helped me to track my expenses, and one thing that was unique about that sheet was what it didn't have. That was a bunch of budget categories, like $20 for clothing, or $50 for gas, or $100 for food. See, I found that's really unrealistic to keep track of. Those things tend to squish into each other, and instead of having a very easy target to judge your spending against, you end up with like 10 to 20 targets, and you have to watch each one, when the reality is, if there's an extra $10 you didn't spend on gas, it'd be perfectly fine to spend that on back-to-school clothes. So when it comes to discretionary spending, all that stuff that you spend in a typical day, like food, gas, and entertainment, it was just one number I had to hit. Just like keeping cash in an envelope with the amount you're allowed to spend, which I also did for a while. And that number was per pay period, not per month. Tracking it by pay period was more precise, a shorter window that was easier to control. I knew if I could just hit that one number for those expenses every paycheck, then I'd be able to predict exactly when I'd have the debt paid off. And to this day, I still use a similar method. Now I use an app that does exactly that. I'm able to plug in the income coming in, the fixed expenses going out, and set a specific target, my one number for combined food, gas, and entertainment. And I know if I hit that number, how it'll fit perfectly with all the other fixed numbers and help me work toward my long-term goals. So back to Kevin. He shared in the same podcast that one of his rules is never outspend yourself on any 30 or 60-day cycle, ever. He's talking about overspending on a short window, 30 days, 60 days, and I go even shorter. I like to say 2 weeks because it's easier to see that window and affect that window. That's great advice. Now, I'd be lying if I said this method of limiting spending alone paid off debt. It did not. It was years of career advancement, increasing income, and this kind of behavior that made it happen. But many people in my shoes, without this method, wouldn't have had the structure to use that increasing income to make this progress. Today we're going to Wonderlove Food Cart Pod in Southeast Portland. It's got a craft cocktail bar, live music stages, a huge variety of food carts, and I'm sure we're going to be able to find a way to spend $28 on brunch and get a great burrito.
Hi, here you go. Oh, thanks a lot. It is harder to have a $28 lunch in this place than you would imagine, because this amazing burrito was only $11 plus tip. I'm going to solve that in a minute by getting another beer. So where Kevin's right is that it would be bad probably for anybody to make this financial decision every single day. To eat a $28 lunch daily, there's probably better things you could do with that money. If I ate this every day for the whole pay period, I'd blow through my budget by like Thursday or Friday, the first week. And my system would tell me about that. I would know I was approaching it, and I'd have to slow it down. You can't just judge one lunch. I mean, this is one lunch today. And let's be honest, most days I have Trader Joe's meatballs for lunch. I have sandwiches made from stuff I got from the grocery store. I have hard-boiled eggs from Costco. And I keep it really, really low budget. And so days like today, if I spend $28 or even more than that, it's not going to tip the scales in the wrong direction. I'm not telling you that doesn't take discipline. It does. Sometimes you run up into that limit. Sometimes you have a little extra expense that you didn't plan for, and you end up having to really go cheap for a few days, especially toward the end of the pay period. But what it does cause you to do is to have more of a freedom of mind where you're planning against one number that fits really well into your long-term budget for food, gas, and entertainment. And as long as you hit that number, you know that long-term you're going to accomplish those financial goals. So you don't end up having to judge that one latte or that one lunch, no matter how much it costs, as long as it fits within that budget. It just makes more sense if all of that discretionary is focused into one place where you can keep track of it the whole time. You never feel bad about a latte. You never feel bad about a lunch, unless it's the latte or lunch that's going to push you over that number and you're not going to be able to make your target overall. 3 expenses to plug in. Beer, $8.54. Burrito, $13.20. Beer, $9.76. $31.50. I even beat the number that pissed off Kevin O'Leary. So I looked at my app. The expense fit. I had the lunch. I couldn't do it every day. Not many people should do it every day. But one time, I'm not going to give myself guilt over that. And the whole reason that matters is, with this kind of a plan, later on, when something bad happens, I got to visit the dentist again because I eat too many Reese's Pieces in the middle of the night. Transmission goes out on the car. Whatever it is, all that's accounted for. There's already money in those index funds. There's plenty in the market to make Kevin O'Leary happy. But the day-to-day purchases I've got contained in this one discretionary number. And that lets me have some freedom.
So that's the whole channel. It's a new channel, and if you like this kind of thing, I'd love it if you'd take a moment to subscribe so I can share more of this with you in the future. I'm never going to tell you what to do with your money, and I don't think anybody should. But I do think you should have the tools and the skills so that you're familiar with what's going on. And you can make quick decisions without having to compare every purchase every day to what it would do in the market over time. You keep your discretionary spending contained in one number, and then you know you have that money to spend on whatever you need in the future. You have the right amount invested or going toward your debt or saving toward your goals, and it makes day-to-day living and decisions a lot easier. I mean, you can't call Dave Ramsey or Susie Orman or Caleb Hammer every weekend to get roasted about the purchases you intend to make. You get roasted for an hour, you kind of walk away saying, okay, I'm not going to buy the couch, I get it. But then what about the next week and the next purchase? You want to have your own tools that you're familiar with. And that's what lets days like today feel a lot easier. I'm partial to sheetkeeper.io. It's an app I've created that helps me daily, and I'll leave a link to it if it would help you. And that link will also get you a free spreadsheet template if you want to get started with this kind of modeling. But most importantly here, no matter what app you use, you decide what matters to you. And you should have tools that help you know exactly what's going to happen. And then you can decide how to spend your money. And once that's all in place, don't let Kevin O'Leary take your sandwich.